What up, everybody? It's Double G alongside John LaRocca, live streaming the Fight Game podcast here on the F4W Online YouTube channel. And those of you listening on audio on the website, welcome to late Thursday, early Friday. It's SummerSlam weekend. It's going to be a pretty big weekend for professional wrestling. We're here to preview SummerSlam. We'll do that near the end of the show. And we're going to do our normal show. We'll have our thumbs up, our thumbs down, our top five. I got a new drop for the top five. We'll see if this one works or if we're going to go back to Drake. I did not delete Drake, by the way. In case Drake is a little bit better, we'll keep Drake.
All right.
But John, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I've been having a pretty good week. I saw Daredevil Wolverine with our very own Jeremy Feinstein on Tuesday. It was a fun movie. Not much of a plot or a story, but, you know, it's good for some laughs and some fun action. And, you know, Hugh Jackman's and Ryan Reynolds are both great. So it was fun. I liked some of the cameos and all that stuff. Some of the stuff was really cool. So it was a good time to hang out with Jeremy.
Did it lean a little bit too heavily into the fan service stuff?
Oh, it's unapologetic fan service.
Yeah,
you know, that's what they're going for. You know, like I said, like even for Jeremy, like we looked at, he's the second time he saw it, and he's like, yeah, not much of a story, but you know, but it's all about the fan service. It's like I guess it was 2 hours of fan service. So
yeah, my favorite part about the thing is they took a movie that was done on Fox, you know, different property, and then they put their Marvel spin on it, and they tried to make it as close to what they did on Fox as possible. And the ones on Fox were very popular, and they're very beloved, so they did not change much of it at all, which I liked. I mean, give credit to Disney. Like, this is not necessarily how they do business, so it was good for them to adapt. I think they needed to adapt, man. Like, you know, this is something that was working, and if you got to change a little standards and practices to make it happen, you do it. That was good.
Yeah, I still don't know about Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom. I thought that was a little bit of a, I don't know, variance. I'm not in the whole time thing, you know, much. It gets kind of too confusing. I'm like, this variant. That's when I start getting lost. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see what happens when those movies come out.
Yes, it's not a Marvel podcast. It'd be a very bad one. If it was a Marvel podcast, it'd be very bad. Like, there are people like you mentioned, Jeremy, who know the ins and outs of the comic books and has ideas where they're taking stories based on things that he's read. And I'm just like, I want to go to the movie. I want to drink my Diet Coke and have fun for 2 hours, and we can both enjoy it in the same way, which is what is very cool about Marvel.
That's how I handle all these comic book movies. I don't get like compared to the comic books and get all upset, because then you just want to enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. All right, well, let's kick off the show. I think we should just get right into our thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
One of the things with doing a thumbs up, thumbs down is sometimes John will have a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and it'll already be in the rundown, and we kind of fly by and talk about all of it, and then I don't have to actually talk about it in the rundown. We kind of just went through it. He alerted me that something that I was going to put in the top 5 was going to be his thumbs up, and I was like, okay, cool, fine, we'll work around. But then at the last minute, he said, I'm changing my mind. I want to leave the rundown the way that it is. So, John, what did you change your thumbs up to?
I originally had the Bryan Danielson promo from this past Wednesday's Dynamite, but I want to say another part I liked about Dynamite was the opening. I liked the MJF, you know, American champion angle. I think it's fantastic. I think he's great at it. You know, he's such a great performer. I really like what he is doing. I thought Ospreay's, I don't like the whole run in and then you stop.
Yeah.
The whole invisible wall thing. You know, I think they could have been a little more creative, or maybe some security could have ran out and got between them, so they didn't look like Ospreay just sitting there and gave up and out chasing MJF. But I liked Ospreay had a good. it started off not that strong, but he closed pretty strong. And Kyle Fletcher's promo was pretty good too. So I actually really enjoy that segment. I think Don Callis just gets in the way at this point because like when's that thing gonna finally end? But I think NGF's portion of it, his promo, the jacket, I love what they did with the title belt. It's really working, and that match feels like a big match coming up in 3 weeks, right? So.
It's actually, let's see, what is it? September? Is it September? When is All In?
No, August 25th, I think.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you're hosting it, aren't you?
Yeah, I should probably tell my wife about that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sunday, August 25th.
You better host it. I'm super excited to go to your place to watch it.
I think the last week I liked a lot better than this week. And I think, the thing that and maybe it's just me kind of watching closely at performances and stuff, but there was a moment last week when MJF, he did something that caused the Nashville fan base to cheer him. And at that point he was like, uh-oh, I need to sort of figure my way out of this because this was not what I thought was going to happen. And then he quickly healed on the fans to get them out of chanting or being excited for his American belt. And so on this show, Will Ospreay had a similar scenario in that he was trying to basically put over the American fans while also putting down MJF. And all it did was cause the American fans to start chanting USA.
Yeah.
And he didn't quite pivot. Like, I don't know if he didn't read it like MJF did, or he was like expecting something different. It kind of caught him off guard, but it just shows you a little bit of how good MJF is. And I'm not saying that Will's not good. Will is good, but he's not at that level of where MJF can read the audience like so well.
And then when that happened, MJF quickly threw out a line to talk about Nashville, where they were at, like to talk about, called them poor or called them imbeciles or something like that. Yeah. So boom, that, he was helping out Will there. He's great. He's great.
Yeah. I think he's, this is really his sweet spot. When he panders to the fans, I think there's a certain part of that fan base that really enjoys that, but he is much better in this role than he is pandering to fans. So I think he's doing a really good job.
Yeah.
All right. My thumbs up. We'll talk a little bit more about the G1 later in the show, but I find Yuya Uemura's character as the Japanese version of that old school babyface that just takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Yeah. Like, there are some fun stories going on in the G1 right now, but that is my favorite one. I think if I was to say, I would say that's my favorite one. But it's just like, we have so much. I'm not sure if this person is a heel or babyface in American pro wrestling today. Like, there's a lot of like gray area guys, and even someone who is a babyface like CM Punk, he does like really mean things, but he's so over that the fans are completely fine with it. Like, that's what I enjoy about Yuya Uemura. Is he's just a babyface. There's like no ands or buts about him. He sells, he makes comebacks, he's not, cheating in any way. And so I really enjoy that because we don't see a lot of that in wrestling today. And so I'm a fan, and I think he's having a really good G1.
Yeah, I like what they're doing. I was Germany, as you know, he's heavily involved in New Japan, and Strictly Strong Style is
speaking of strong style.
Speaking of strong, I always call it Strictly, but speaking of Strong Style, but we were talking about that, and I was kind of asking him. I gotta go back listen to their podcast from this afternoon, but for me, I have not seen the excitement, at least on my feeds, right? Before. But to me, I'm really excited about this year is because of the young guys are getting opportunity, and it's like I think we talked about last week. It's like, okay, it's the year of the young guys on the baseball team to kind of get some experience, and we'll see who kind of where they all land. Are they going to be top guys? Or are they going to be, you know, in the mid card? So to me, this year's really exciting, and I've really been enjoying it.
Yeah, it's you know, there is you really feel the loss of an Okada and an Osprey night after night.
And a healthy Tanahashi,
And
right?
a healthy Tanahashi, a healthier Naito, even Kota Ibushi, who won it like 2 years in a row. And you see someone like Hiroki Goto, and you're like, how has this dude been in the G1 for 17 years? What is he doing to, like, you know, drinking from the fountain of youth to make sure that he can still do this stuff is amazing.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic, and he's having a good G1 himself performance-wise, you know. Also missing too is that big foreign Gaijin, you know, like you know, that Moxley a few years ago, of course, Kenny Omega, you know. So like, yeah, Takeshita is in this tournament, but he's not he's not Gaijin, he's, you know, a countryman just from a different promotion. He's really good and having great matches. But the problem is for U.S. fans that go, hey, I gotta check out G1.
Yeah.
Takeshita on cable television and AEW hasn't been featured since late last year, right?
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
So he's been like under the radar doing nothing. So how can those U.S. fans go, oh man, I gotta see Takeshita in G1? Unless you're just the hardcores, you know, that want to watch it.
Yeah, and that's, you know, with a tournament where everyone is not watching at the same time, like you can't get those chats going when everything's in the middle of the night and a lot of people are watching on delay. Though I will admit, I have been able to keep up with the live. You know, usually by the next day, I'm pretty much caught up, which I thought I was going to have a big problem with. But there's a break, so there's like I don't think there's another show until like Saturday. So we're
August 4th, I think, is the next one, right?
Yeah, so maybe Sunday. Yeah, so we got a little bit of a break, and those who haven't caught up yet and are interested, you do have some time to catch up to the show. All right, who's your thumbs down?
My thumbs down is two people. I don't know if it was both of their problems, but I watched Bloodsport 11.
Okay.
I haven't finished it. I still have to watch the main event between Shayna Baszler and Yamashita, but I haven't watched that match yet. You think that's the match I really wanted to see, but I just haven't had time to go check it out. But I watched the show and I really enjoyed the show. But there's one fight or match on there that was just god awful, and that was Santana versus Homicide.
Oh wow!
It just didn't feel like it belonged. It was like Santana came out, and I don't know if you've seen Santana recently, but he's super jacked, right? He came out looking super cool. This guy just looked like the coolest dude around, right? And he is pumped, man. He's going through it's a smaller crowd, you know, the smaller building, but he's going through that crowd. People are trying to slap high fives. He's not slapping high fives with them. He's just pumped up, running by, you know, he's pumped. I'm like, dude, okay, this is going to be exciting. And it was just a blob of a match. And Santana did the job. I'm like, what the hell? It was just a stinker, in my opinion. So thumbs up, thumbs down, skew me to those two guys for that performance. I don't know whose fault it was. It just wasn't working.
My thumbs down is outside of the ring here. As everyone knows, the Olympics are happening. And I'm not even really going to talk about the situation. If you have not heard about it, it's all over Twitter. You can go to people's tweets. You can go to Logan Paul's Twitter. I don't know if he's taken this down, but he made a comment on Twitter without really understanding the situation. And even when he did understand the situation, he still came off as a bigot. And I just, you know, the thing about this isn't wrestling only, though I think he does have the responsibility, being that he's had a platform for all these years and now he's working for WWE. I'm sure WWE isn't happy to see comments related to transphobic folks. And you have a responsibility to at least do a little bit of homework before you discuss these very sort of edgy kind of topics, you know, gender, race, transgender, any of these things, do like a 1, 2, 3 kind of moment in your own head and go, do I really need to talk about this? Is this gonna is this gonna actually add to the conversation, or am I gonna look like an idiot? And I mean, he just kind of showed his cards to me. Some people probably thought, oh, he's like a big Trump supporter. This isn't even really about conservative versus liberal to me. Like, bigotry and hate is a different level. It's sort of like, not really related to politics. It's just bigotry and hate to me. And there were other comments about this particular person who is a female boxer who is the subject of this thing. And just do your homework. Just do a little bit of homework. I'm going to put over Ibu from Wrestle Purist. He made a comment about, if you just needed to do a little bit of homework, you would have found all of these things which made Logan Paul's statement just even worse than it was.
Mm-hmm.
And Ibu actually got picked up by famed boxing announcer who I grew up listening to when I was a young boxing fan, a man by the name of Al Bernstein. And when I saw Al retweet Ibu, I was like, wow, like this thing actually has picked up some steam. So shout out to Ibu for sticking up for, sticking up for the scenario of, hey, we got to call this guy out. Like, this guy, we can't let this dude, even if he's a big wrestling star, just get out there and spew this hateful nonsense. So shout out to Ibu. Good job there. But yeah, Logan Paul, if I was to do a play on his own podcast, his tweet was repulsive. All right.
Yeah, well said.
Let's get to the top 5 now. I'm a little bit nervous about this drop here.
I hope it's Bushwick Bill.
It isn't quite Bushwick Bill, but no. You'll recognize a phrase from 1990s hip hop. But okay, I'm just gonna press the button. Just gonna get it over with. You can shoot me some feedback if you want me to go back to Drake. But here we go. Here is the top 5.
Drums, please.
Short and sweet.
I like it. I like the beat. I don't remember that hip hop song's from. I'm missing it.
It's the drums, please. Is I hope I don't get us in trouble here, but on DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, "Summertime," the very beginning of the song is him saying "drums, please." I think if it's like a second, I can use it kind of as a drop.
Yeah.
And then the beat is just something that is non-copyright that I found. So
yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay. Let's talk about the top 5 here. Number 1, we have to talk about the photo opportunity by
Samantha
one.
Irvin?
Oh, I saw that one too.
That one was my like, but I didn't think that was appropriate.
Shane McMahon and Tony Khan.
No.
I want them to do like a buddy cop movie now. Like, I just want to see them together. They're just like,
people were shocked that I was like, yeah, I'm all for this. The chaos that we could cause.
That's what it is chaos. Is what would happen is you have the all right. I will take this a little bit seriously because I'm kind of curious now. When this story came out, good old JR, right? Good old JR was on his podcast and was like, yeah, I heard Shane, might be interested in talking to Tony Khan or whatever the comment was. And AEW fans went crazy on good old JR, right? They were not happy with that statement. And turns out Tony Khan heard that statement and was like, yeah, I've never talked to the guy. Be open and talking to him. Seems like a good dude. We should have a cup of coffee or whatever he said. Sean Ross Sapp on, what would that have been? Tuesday night, maybe? I think he had a tweet, or maybe it was I think it was Tuesday night. He had a tweet that said, oh, me and Russ will talk. We have a story that is about to come out that is going to be really interesting. And a lot of people are kind of wondering, okay, it's probably WWE related because Russell Talk does a lot of WWE stuff. And that was correct. I will admit, I was not anywhere near the Shane McMahon thing. Like, that was like, oh, wow, I got caught off guard. But the story is that they had a meeting. They were at an airport. They had a meeting. They chopped it up. They have some similarities in that they are sons of rich dudes. And then there are also lots of dissimilarities, unless Shad Khan has gotten in any trouble. I've never heard of that. But the idea that Shane McMahon would show up in AEW, you embraced that idea. Why do you embrace that idea?
It's totally different than what they normally do with just, try to put on, really good matches. It might add a interesting element to the EVP situation with the Young Bucks and Okada. It'd just be different. He's a good television character. I don't know if he needs to wrestle, but I'm sure he will. But
well, you remember what happened when he wrestled the last time?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
He did the stanky leg right in the middle of the ring.
If maybe once a year possible, but more of the character and I wish they but I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe he shows up. I've bought an AEW from under Tony Khan. I don't know how he do that, but
yeah, I was saying he should just come out and just redo the speech with Vince from Nitro.
Part of me, I love to see the chaos on social media because then again, this is if this does happen, it's a risk for Tony Khan because now you're starting to alienate your loyal fan base from day one who wanted an alternative from the WWE.
Yes.
And now you have a McMahon on your show who, a symbol of WWE, obviously, it could cause some people to leave and then maybe say, oh, screw this then. Actually, WWE's been better. I've been watching that more. I mean, whatever. You just never know. Or people just want to stop watching wrestling altogether. That could happen too. So it's a big risk for Tony Khan if it happens. I just want to see what would happen. So I'm all for it.
I'm always a cynic when it comes to moments like this. I know Sean Ross Sapp said that the photo that came out was not meant to come out, which I kind of have a hard time believing that because it was kind of like a photo op kind of moment.
It looked staged, like Tony Khan's putting his hand over his face partially and all that stuff. So yeah.
Well, one of my favorites, Lady B, believes she agrees with you about Shane with the Elite is the only way that this could possibly work. I think that's a easy one for sure if he does come in. So my immediate thought, and I sent Dave a note the first thing that I saw about this. I said, is Shane McMahon showing up at SummerSlam? Like, I didn't even say anything about the AEW thing. I was just like,
yeah,
is Shane showing up on Sunday? Like, is that what he's working towards? And Dave sort of was like thinking along the same lines. He didn't say that that's what's happening, but he was like, yeah, I wonder if, I haven't heard that he's interested in going back to WWE. I've also heard that they may not be as interested in having him back. And if you're Shane McMahon, the idea that your pops is in all kinds of trouble because of all of his transgressions, he is out of the company, and he kind of chose against you to follow in his footsteps. He decided you were not the right person. I don't know how competitive Shane is. I've never found him to be a brilliant mind when it came to wrestling. We remember that Royal Rumble from a couple years ago that he added his 2 cents in booking, and lots of people got bothered with him backstage. The problem I see is Triple H is in a spot where Shane probably feels as like, man, why am I not in that spot? Why is this not my thing? And I got to imagine that's like a hard thing to deal with. Who knows about the wackiness of how their family works?
And don't forget, he got passed up by Stephanie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got passed up by Stephanie. And Stephanie is Triple H's in to the entire company. If Shane is chosen instead of Stephanie, and I'm not saying that he should have been, Stephanie is probably smarter about this stuff than he is, at least as far as I've seen. But if he is chosen instead of Stephanie, then Triple H is not in the position that he's in. So I imagine there's tons of feelings for Shane McMahon about his role in this family business and his dad being on the outs and all of these things. So in one hand, I was thinking, well, if Shane really wanted to sort of stick it to Triple H, maybe he does show up on AEW TV. If he really believes that this is kind of his birthright and he should be involved in some way, maybe there's a leverage thing that, Nick Khan is like, hey, dude, like, I get it. Like, we're going to find a spot for you. Come home. Your son, your son is probably going to want an opportunity to be a wrestler after he's done playing college football, all of those things. So it makes sense for WWE as the family business side of things to just tell Shane, like, dude, just chill. Like, we'll figure out something, whatever you want to do. But that's where I'd have to sort of figure. I just don't know him at all, really, but enough to know his psyche when it comes to, is he, does he want to stick it to those guys, or are they not having a Thanksgiving dinner at each other's house these days, or is this really just a play for him to kind of get his foot in the door back with WWE?
Yeah. If Tony Khan does hire him, one, I don't think Tony will put him anywhere close to creative, because Tony likes to have a tight grip on that as much as possible. But I think as a character, it's fine. It could be interesting. I don't see it becoming Razor Scott Hall, showing up on Nitro one day and causing, a spike in business. I think it's.
I mean, they had that already. That was CM Punk, right? That was
it'd be a short,
CM Punk and Bryan Danielson and those guys.
The idea of the invasion storyline, I don't know. That could
the WWE invading a guy.
Yeah, that could lead to MVP, Bobby Lashley, etc. I don't think in 2024 people are gonna believe that at all compared to 1996.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but I think it could definitely add to the whole Young Bucks thing and their EVPs, and Tony Khan's definitely gonna have to start being a character at that point. Even more, which I'm all for again, because he's one of my favorite TV characters in AEW, because he's so wacky and crazy, and it's always you just never know what you're gonna get. So
there's going to be some shoe wars if it's Shane McMahon and the Young Bucks, though, because Shane wears only Jordans and the Young Bucks now have their pumps, so there might be some shoe wars. So basically what you said was also what I was thinking is, does Tony Khan think that Shane McMahon could be another tree branch to bring in other WWE guys that may be, I don't know if everybody fits, but as much as bringing in CM Punk was kind of that big home run, CM Punk hadn't been in WWE for 8 or 9 years. He has not yet brought in a main event top level talent who was working in WWE this month and then is a free agent next month. Like, he has not done that yet. That could be something that he wants to do, that he thinks would be beneficial. And maybe he believes Shane and his contacts and his networking could be one of those things, or one of those helpful reasons. But you and I were talking about this on Twitter. He would be the biggest possibility for a spy for WWE. With anybody.
Yeah, if Tony Khan's worried about Ricky Starks being a spy, like, imagine having Shane McMahon there. Like, can you imagine every time Shane had his phone out, Tony just freaking goes crazy? What are you doing? Who are you texting?
I can't even imagine. Lady B asks, how was this leaked and why? Why is TK leveraging this way? Did media get looped in to plugging an agenda? So I also asked Dave about, like, I don't know the logistics of it, how it was leaked. I am not at that level of where, they're trying to send me fast national ratings and stuff to post or anything. Like, they probably also, my smallish Twitter following and the fact that I do this show with Dave, they're like, not worth it. Not worth us trying to do this. But for Tony's side, like, why would Tony want this to come out? Tony's from the era that John just talked about when Hall and Nash came over to WCW. He probably remembers every timeline of what happened, that because he's such a big fan himself, and he's always looking to create those moments. He knows that wrestling fans think that those moments are really cool and they're very memorable. So if he's putting some stuff out there that could possibly be something down the line, then oh yeah, you saw it here first, and this is what we're doing. And I just always go back to this. People have heard me talk about this so much, but that night before Brawl Out, when Dave and I are interviewing Tony, and Dave's like, you're leaning, I don't remember how he said it, but he was like, you kind of lean into the backstage stuff. Like, kind of reminds me a little bit of Brett and Sean in those days. And Tony was like really excited for that. He was like, yeah, like it creates interest. Like wrestling fans love it. And then the next day, all hell breaks loose, and CM Punk destroys everybody in his company. So it's those things, TK being the fan that he is at heart. I'm sure he's trying to create those moments for AEW. This one, and kind of this is probably Lady B's point. This one just felt a little forced. If it was sort of a promo thing, but Sean Ross Sapp is not a dumb person. He's a very smart guy. He's a very good reporter. He swears that it wasn't meant to come out. So my question is if it didn't, and by the way, John Alba, another smart guy, also swears by this. So my question to them is like, if it wasn't meant to come out, then how did it come out? Because that might be the big story to go try and get the scoop. I would pay for Sean's Fightful Select if he had that story. I just say here's $50. Just that's 10 months right there for telling me how this possibly would have gotten leaked out without Tony Khan knowing. So
yeah.
All right, number 2 in our top 5. We're gonna go back to this Danielson Swerve thing that you almost had in your thumbs up. I will say, and I will let you kind of take the lead on this, but I will say it was a little too much coach speak for me from Danielson with the staying in the present. And there's I can't remember what the book is called. The book might be called like The Present or something, but the idea is, people think of the word present meaning gift, and like the real gift is your ability to stay in the present and live your life, and not be distracted by all these different things. So that's what Bryan Danielson was going with. But in my mind, it's like, I'm like, why is Pat Riley from the 1989 Lakers like telling me about living in the present? But go ahead, tell me what you liked about the Danielson side of things, and also Swerve's follow-up.
Well, I really liked it because it's what this match needed, right? Last week, there was that inspirational speech to Jeff Jarrett. Bryan Danielson seemed to be just like ho-hum about getting a title shot, or not really even seem like interested in really winning it. But this week, I don't know if they pivoted or this is what they had planned out, but Bryan finally gave that speech and makes you want to see him win that belt and win that championship. And I know you call it coach speak, but I liked what he was building to. And I felt like the only thing I didn't like was that he said his contract had ended on August 1st. And I'm like, why would you say that going into the world title match? Like, hey, they could have just kept that under wraps. I know there's already out there, but at least on television, they could have kept that under wraps. And I like the banter between him and Swerve, but Swerve is kind of towing that line of babyface and heel too much.
This is what I'm talking about. This is why
it's like every other month.
Murrah is my guy, because it's like straight babyface. 1
minute he's home invasion. Next minute he's a babyface. Then he hates people again. Now he wants to destroy Bryan Danielson for some damn reason. I didn't like that part, so I just put my mind in. Okay, I see Swerve as the heel.
Yeah.
You know, going after Bryan Danielson, defending his title against Bryan Danielson, who's like the ultimate babyface here. I don't know who's gonna win. I like the idea that it could be, I kind of like it could go both ways. You know, obviously, like I see both, but I feel Bryan Danielson is, I don't know, he's not retiring, but he's getting semi-retired after this pay-per-view. And Swerve is your guy, right? With Ospreay, your 1-2 punch there. I would put Swerve over, you know.
Okay, so here's my question.
Personally.
Before Bryan even made the stipulation, which was not forced upon him, this was his own stipulation. Swerve was basically telling lots of truths. He was saying, you lost to Ospreay, I beat Ospreay.
Yeah, I like
you
that.
Lost to this person, I beat this person. You're old, I'm new. And I was like, wow, he is just putting out the resume and comparing resumes right now, right on live television. And Bryan Danielson is coming out of this looking worse for the wear. And so I thought, okay, Danielson's winning. Like, Swerve is not going to cut him down like this and give Bryan the passion and the motivation to fire up and show us who the true Bryan Danielson is. And then when Bryan Danielson put his career on the line, I thought, okay, there's no way he's losing now. Like, you just gave me two like thoughts of like, he's got to win. Like, how does he lose this match? Because unless Bryan Danielson is just an outright liar, which Lady B says that Bryan Danielson loves to lie, and also that Cody taught him how to lie. That's his statements in the media. But if he loses, he didn't say he was going to do this like half retirement thing. He said he was never wrestling again. And I don't buy that for a second. Like, this dude's going to be Terry Funk.
Yeah. Some opportunity, and you know, that he hasn't accomplished yet. He's going to do. He wants to do a wrestle. Did he say retire? I thought he just said I can't challenge for the title, or my last chance.
I think he says I can't. I'll look it up to make sure, because this is an important thing to get right. I swear I thought he said he was not going to wrestle again.
Okay. But I still think I can see Swerve winning. Swerve could be that cocky world champion going into the match. They can have a hell of a match. Danielson takes it to the limit. Swerve wins, and then they have the mutual, handshake. He humbled Swerve a bit. Swerve wins, respects the hell of Bryan Danielson, and then Danielson can get that, Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 6 moment. So I can see that happening at All In, but at least there's some mystery to it going in. Could go. It's not clear cut if Danielson's going to win or not, and I'm for it. I just wish they had a better lead up to this match, and then we got 3 weeks and they're trying to quickly jumpstart this son of a gun. Like, I wish there was I know that Danielson was putting people over, and like they didn't emphasize that. Right. He would lose. And he would just lose. Like, they didn't really, they tried to do this big injury thing with Will Ospreay and the Tiger Driver 98. And he was back in 3 weeks to do a arena match. And, Danielson's talking about his injuries and everything and trying to get that over. I think it might be embellishing a little bit. If it's that serious and doctors saying he can't wrestle, he would not be wrestling. Let's be honest. Right.
Right.
But so.
Okay, let me.
I liked what I saw.
Let me read from Ryan Howard, who's my favorite recapper on F4W on the website. Ryan Howard wrote the live report on Dynamite, and here is what he said. He wrote, Danielson stopped Strickland and Nana from leaving, saying he has one more promise. If he doesn't win the AEW World Championship, he will never wrestle again.
There you go.
See, that's why I was like, this has to be a clue for people to buy All In, for all of those people who said, what, Bryan Danielson, how come he never wins a title? He's the best wrestler. How come this is telling you guys, you better buy this pay-per-view if you want to see Bryan Danielson finally win the AEW world title. Now, what's intriguing to me and what I like about this program more than anything is, in most cases with AEW world title matches, you kind of know who's going to win and who's going to lose. Like we've seen wacky challengers like Christian Cage, and I would have bet my house that Swerve Strickland won that match, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said it to anybody though, because then somebody would have changed the finish and had Swerve win the title back the next day, just so I lost my house. But I think there's genuine curiosity on what the belt is going to look like between now and whenever MJF wins it again. Because whenever MJF wins it again, then we're probably getting back to Ospreay and like a long-term thing and get Ospreay that big win for the world title. But right now you have Swerve Strickland, you have Bryan Danielson, you have Hangman Page, who is in the mix, which is why I don't really understand why he lost to Darby. Though then Darby also has a world title shot. I would not have had Darby win that match, but those three are kind of the curiosity for me. Like, what is All In, All Out, Wrestle Dream, World's End? Like, there's matches there that I think we're going to see until the end of the year that has piqued my curiosity, because I genuinely don't know who's going to win, what they're going to do with the title, if they're going to bounce it around, if Danielson's really not winning. Like, there's stuff there that really piqued my interest when it comes to the world title program.
Here's what I think. I think possibly during that promo when Bryan Danielson said his on August 1st, his full-time contract as a wrestler ends, right?
Yeah, so he's telling us he's working on a handshake deal right now.
Yeah. So he basically said almost like a semi-retirement, or maybe that line was thrown out there because people think, well, he said if he wins, so if he wins, he's still going to be wrestling, right? He's still not going to be wrestling on every show, but maybe they're thinking that was a way to trick fans. I still think he's losing. I think Bryan doesn't want to win the belt. I don't think it's not important for him to hold that belt, personally, in his real feelings. But character-wise, yeah, he should want that belt. But I think he wants to. He's planning on definitely slowing down and wants to put AEW in the best place possible when that happens. And Swerve is a guy he's your top guy. With Ospreay, those guys are your two top guys. Those are the three pillars of I know there's an extra pillar I haven't named, but one of the female maybe not, maybe Mercedes' point, but MJF, Ospreay.
Should they redo the original four pillars at this point?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you know what they should do? They should have matches to create the new pillars. They're like, oh, MJF, you got to defend your pillar status. Darby, you got to defend your pillar status.
Did you see Sammy Guevara just comes back on ROH television? Oh my God, that's like going to Heat or something.
I haven't even really bothered to verify, but I heard that some of it had to do with just creative that he didn't necessarily agree with on the AEW side. I don't know if that is true, but that was the first thing I heard when they said he showed up on ROH. Like, oh yeah, like he wasn't happy with what they had from in AEW, so he's doing his own thing. I don't know.
God.
What else on Dynamite did you? Okay, I'll kick this one off. So, how much I enjoy the performances of Toni Storm and Mariah May. I think Mariah May has it, but the storyline has kind of fallen off a little bit here. Yes. I'm not sure exactly where it's going. Like, I know the idea was to kind of make Toni Storm crack, like her character just loses her mind or whatever. I know, Mariah May was going to turn heel. We knew that part at some point. I guess I expected all this to happen at the pay-per-view, like as a way for Mariah to win the title in a dastardly way. But she turned like a month earlier than I thought. And now we're dealing with the fallout of Toni Storm going into this match, not herself, I guess, and then Mariah May as a heel going in, even though the hometown crowd is going to want her to, they're going to cheer her. So interesting dynamic for All In. But are you of the same mind that this storyline kind of lost its way a little bit?
Yeah, because they haven't truly explained why she turned in great detail. It's just been like, it's always been there, kind of just this vague reason. I give Toni Storm credit. I mean, she is, all in on this character. She is 110%.
Yeah, she's dialed in, man.
But at the same time, it's so over the top. It's hard to take this as a serious program, right? So I'm not as into it as a lot of other people are. I think Mariah May has tremendous presence, a tremendous look, pretty good in the ring. There's room for improvement, but she has it. And so I think you kind of have to have her go over at Wembley for sure, and I'm just not into Toni Storm as this babyface, this crazy person. And my main issue is like, okay, you did this angle, this very violent angle, but give me the backstory, give me the reason why. And it's like so vague. Even that little, like, what was that? A minute and a 90-second interview with Renee in the back.
I'm not answering any more questions.
Nothing was said. It was like a Tony Khan press conference, right? It was just like, so I'm not into as much as I know. And I don't know I don't know how you are about Britt and Mercedes. Not really into that as well either. So
I think that lost a little bit of steam when everyone saw Britt's first match back.
Yes,
because it wasn't that good. Now I'm a Brit fan. I think I really like so many things about her, but that in ring is kind of the stickler for her to kind of take it to that next level. And Mercedes is, as we used to say back in the 90s, all that in a bag of chips. Like, she's got everything just working for her right now. She understands how to utilize her social media to make herself seem like, this big star outside of wrestling. She's got this great opportunity in AEW to be seen as, one of the top stars in the company. And her personality just comes through, and she's so much better. And she seems so much more comfortable as well. As a heel, I think she's in the right spot for what she's doing. And the sort of the star power and the distance between the two is so big right now. I would like to see Britt get a nice babyface moment, but at this point, it's almost like if she's almost not good enough to beat Mercedes right now.
No, she shouldn't go over. Should not go over.
Yeah. So that's my thought. And I wish, and I'm hopeful. Maybe Britt had some first match jitters back. I'm hopeful that she raises her game so that because I think Mercedes in these pay-per-view matches, like, Mercedes goes for it, right? Like, they're gonna want to have this great match. And
Britt is just, I mean, her weakness has always been her in-ring. It's been there since day one. Watch her matches. Things are okay for the first few minutes, and when they go long, they fall apart big time. So, and Wembley Stadium, Mercedes Moné is going to want to have this epic championship match, and Britt's not. I don't think I've never seen her hold her in on those matches like that. So, my advice: keep it simple, right? Keep the spot simple. Don't try to do anything that Britt can't do, and because I don't think she can. I think you keep it simple. The problem is that Britt's a better heel too. So even as a baby face, she's the beloved original.
Yeah,
right?
she's like her hometown star.
Yeah. Like the saying, and he might be an asshole, but he's our asshole, right? Compared to the outsider, the other heel that came in the territory. So I think Yeah, I think it's another issue. I think Britt's more comfortable as a heel too, so her as his bay face isn't seen as natural either. So I hope it surprised me. I'm not rooting for a bad match. I want to see a good match. So
You know
I would
what
say
I
keep it
thought?
simple.
You know what I thought as you were talking about Britt and maybe it not working on her end? Mercedes had a line last night on
Mm,
Dynamite where she said Camille had just got this victory. You know, she's the CEO. I forgot what she called her corporation. And then she said, you know, and thank you to my EVPs for not allowing Britt to come into the ring or to be in the building or whatever she said.
mhm.
And I was like, oh, so that means Britt is there? Like that's usually like a
Mhm.
clue, right? That Britt is gonna attack her or whatever. And then nothing happened, and then I was
Yep.
just like, oh, yeah, Britt's not there. And I just didn't even think about it again, which kind of proves your point about maybe this isn't as hot right now
Mhm.
as it could be.
Yeah.
All right, Lady B has another question. At this point, Lady B might as well just be the third person in the booth here. Does Mariah and Tony main event All In or not? I don't think it's going to main event. I
No.
think if they main event, it's going to be either the Swerve and Bryan Danielson match or the Will Ospreay and MJF match. I think there is an opportunity for them to really lean into one of these programs. Like I don't know what Tony believes is his top women's program like down the line,
Mhm.
but I think he needs to build one of these programs on the women's side with the idea that if this thing works, we're going to main event it because in order to like if you have all of these titles, right? We know the men's world title is over because of who has held it, because of all the great matches. And you want the women's world title to be at a similar level. WWE thankfully, because they had Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch and Charlotte, they had that. They had, you know, sort of almost equal level titles.
Mhm.
And some of that was also, you know, Roman Reigns was kind of being force fed to fans and they were so, you know, that helped. But at the same time, um, you had Becky and you had Ronda and they were giant stars. I think you have the possibility in someone like Mercedes. I just don't think the programs are put in those spots even on television to be
Yeah.
the biggest program in the company. And I do think it should happen. Brian Alvarez and Andrew Zarian and I think it was on the We're Live Pal 100th show we had Brian on. And we had this conversation about the women's programs and we all came to the consensus that you know, I think it was based off of Tony answering a question about the women's programs and him having just like this random answer that we were like, dude, if you want the women to main event, you have to book them as main eventers. Like that's
Mhm.
your job. Like it is not,
Yes.
you know, some of it is also, does this program get over? Are these matches good? You know, do you have a female Will Ospreay? Probably not. But as we know in our analysis of the business, the best wrestling match isn't always the one that draws the most money either.
Mhm.
So build the program um, and put the women in the spots to get over and to be your main program. You have all of these pay-per-views. If that match is Mercedes versus Jamie Hayter, let's say, like I don't know, it's Jamie Hayter could return at All In and maybe
Mhm.
um and maybe you know be there with Britt, right? Or not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's going to happen, but with Camille in the picture, like that could be a natural thing. But if your idea is like, yeah, Jamie Hayter's going to be the one to beat Mercedes for that title, let's build the blocks so that that can be your biggest match to main event a pay-per-view. I just don't think he thinks of it that way, or he doesn't see the women's title in that because he's such like a you know he's such a sicko for like these high spots in
Mhm.
wrestling and stuff. So I would love
Yeah.
to see it though. I think they have some really strong women. You see Willow just blossoming as a young superstar in wrestling has been so fun to watch, and I still like Chris Statlander a lot. I think she's she's really good too. So there's opportunities there, but they just need to
Mhm.
put the importance on it, I think.
I was surprised though that Chris Statlander Willow match did not have much heat.
No.
You know.
I don't like okay. I don't know if the fans live are just sick of the eliminator thing, but whenever I see a match that is built as an eliminator, I automatically care about 50 to 75% less.
Justin Roberts' introduction of that match was, he said a mouthful. For the CMLL World Women's Middleweight, some bullshit, a title eliminator match. Oh god, I was dying. But yeah, not much heat in that match at all. That was shocking. So I think Willow's kind of losing some steam because this program's losing some steam. And your third point, yes, women can headline a pay-per-view in AEW, but they have to be treated and featured as such. And Tony has not, and I don't think the division is strong in AEW as you think, but Jamie Hayter is such a beloved. People are waiting for her return, so I do hope that happens at All In. And I think a Jamie Hayter, if built correctly with Mercedes Moné, could be a big time pay-per-view match. But yeah, that has to be built correctly. And unfortunately, that's not Tony Khan's strength. And not just with the women, just in a lot of times with the men's as well.
All right, let's get to topic number 3, NXT Great American Bash. I caught the 1-hour version, the Hulu cut. Roxanne Perez and Thea Hale. They're young and they're good. And, Thea Hale, you mentioned Tony Storm and her character. Thea Hale leans into that character hard.
Yeah, she's 100%
so much personality. You just root for her. She's, we talk about like Trick Williams having that like John Cena charisma where you just root for him because he seems like someone you wanna see do well. Like she's like that too, but it's different because she's like that small package and she's like playing that character. Like when she was being hyped up in the back, I was dying.
Yeah, she's such a great underdog bayface. And when she does eventually win that title, it's going to be a big deal. It's like she's kind of had moments where you think like, man, they should probably put that belt on her soon. But for some reason, there's always something else cooking. And with Roxanne, you kind of want Roxanne, who's doing a tremendous job, by the way, as a heel champion. And they're already building to Julia. They're already building to Stephanie Vaquer. So I think that's fantastic. But yeah, Thea Hale is just a ball of fun. I love this match. This match I thought was a barn burner of a match. It was only less than 10 minutes, but it was crisp. I thought the finish was great. Both are tremendous. I mean, it's probably another reason why I wasn't into Willow and Statlander, because I just watched Thea Hale versus Roxanne Perez before I started watching Dynamite, and that was such a great match. And it's gonna be hard to follow that up with the what Statlander and Willow did. But
by the way, do you think Stokely and I don't even remember who the referee was in the match? You think they're watching a little bit of House of Torture? They were watching some G1. They're like, "Oh, House of Torture. Let's figure out how to do the heel gimmick here."
I was really upset with that match because the finish, the chain behind the referee's back, but because in AEW, a lot of times they look for the punchline, and this used to drive me nuts when I was booking, and I hate this when people come to me. It'd be funny if I'm not trying to be funny. I don't want people to laugh at the product. I want people to get emotionally invested, and that's what I think AEW does. All these people are like, it'd be funny if I had this gaudy chain that she knocks out Willow with, and I try to stuff it in my pants, and it's so big. Like, it was so ridiculous. But yeah, I did not like that finish at all. I thought that was Stokely's just not I feel like he probably could be effective as a manager, but he's just not really. He's not doing much. I think he tries to be too clever with his pop culture references instead of being a heel manager. Like, he did not interfere one time in that match. Like, they don't feed managers anymore. They just stand out there and then they get involved in the finish. There's no tripping of the opponent behind the referee's back. There's no throwing some cheap shots in there. They just sit there and do nothing until it's called upon at the end for the finish. And that drives me, as a former professional wrestling manager, Like, I don't want to be involved to take away from my wrestler in the ring, but I want to add to his or her heat by helping them cheat and get involved, right? And then, maybe I could get my butt kicked so they could keep their heat, but I got my ass kicked. You know what I mean? And towards the end, if you build it to that correctly. So, anyways, managers are a little bit, I got, special place in my heart, and I see guys and gals just not being used correctly, and it's almost like why have them, right? So. Yeah, my rant's over on that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's just something that we've been talking about. Is different from how wrestling was when we were younger. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and we'll move on from NXT because they have Great American Bash Night 2 next week. You and I did not get a chance to talk about this, and I think it was the night that your daughter had the injury with her teeth.
Yeah,
Joe Hendry. What are your thoughts on Joe Hendry?
He's like their Orange Cassidy with size. In my opinion, he has a charm to him. He's over. I don't know if part of me feels he's a Sean Spears Perfect 10 kind of character. Like, I don't know how long the shelf life of this character can go. I predict he will be in the Royal Rumble in 2025. But again, I just don't see how long it lasts. But man, I like his mentality. Like, he wants to train at the Performance Center. He wants to learn from people there.
How old is this dude?
Let's be on the same age as Drew, I'm gonna say, or close, or maybe a little younger. But he's a good
36.
worker.
Holy cow!
Yeah. He's been around. He's worked different places. I like him. But he's like their Orange Cassidy, right? He has that cult following. So that's where I kind of see him.
I was amused because I thought it was just like a wrestling fan thing, but then I saw, and this might still be a wrestling fan thing, but there was a social media video from, I want to say it was one of the NFL training camps, maybe Cincinnati Bengals or something. And one of the guys came out singing the Joe Hendry song. I was like, what? What's going on here? And me and my buddies, my buddy Ed and I were like the wrestling fans of the school when we were younger back in the day. And he's still in. He'll still watch WWE. He's not watching much anything else, and mostly just pay-per-views. And my other buddies kind of they check it. If The Rock's involved, then they're like, oh man, I want to see what's going on. But one of my buddies, Jay, he has a son who is something like, gosh, how old is he right now? He's probably like maybe like 9 years old. So he's right in that sweet spot of like wrestling fan age as a kid. And so I saw him the other day and I was talking. I was like, oh yeah, I've actually had a chance to talk to Cody Rhodes. I've interviewed Cody Rhodes before. And he was like, his eyes were just like wide open. And his dad and him have like this Joe Hendry thing going back and forth. So I see all these Joe Hendry gifts and stuff like, just from, casual wrestling fans, which I find insane, but hey, that is, if it works, it works. Right. And, one of my favorite characters, though, he probably overstayed his welcome a little bit. And I saw how my kids would react to him was Santino, like the ultimate underdog character, right? Like there's a different charm there, but Santino was never seen as a main event guy. He was there because his gimmick worked like amazingly well, and they were able to get other people over because of it, or he helped other people get over. So I like those characters a lot. I just can't tell, like, is he somebody that you're gonna take seriously as like a main player at any point?
I could see him winning the NXT title, and I could see him win that belt. If he went to the main roster, he probably will. I definitely feel he's going to be a main roster guy. I feel he'd be that fun-loving mid-card kind of character, like an Otis in that role there. But I can also see people grabbing onto is like the yes chant. And unlike Bryan Danielson, I can see there could be a moment if he hit the peak right where he does win a big belt, one of the big belts, world titles. But I don't think it will sustain as long, right? But we'll see. All the best to him. I like what he's doing. And Shawn Michaels loves that guy.
Yeah.
So he seems like he's gonna do pretty well. I just either way he's gonna have a long career in the WWE whenever he frees up for that, which I think is gonna be soon, right? I'm guessing.
I mean, you might as well utilize him when he's hot.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Can you imagine? And this is why I also embrace the non-Vince McMahon era. Can you imagine Shawn Michaels and Triple H trying to explain Joe Hendry to Vince McMahon and what Vince McMahon would think of him? Like, this dude would show up on television. He would get this giant applause, and Braun Strowman would come in and kick him in the face and pin him. Like, that's what would happen.
Or he'd be into it for like 3 weeks and then totally out of it. Like is he what's the name? Elias, right? Was getting a lot of time on.
Or remember Fandango? He beats Chris Jericho at WrestleMania, and then Vince is like over it, and Jericho's like, "What the hell, man? I just put this guy over for you at WrestleMania, and now you're not into it."
Dango, yep, Dango,
Dirty Dango,
Dirty Dango. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching next week. Should be pretty good, I think, of the Gregory Bash. So
they're putting Trick in with the workers, right? Like, they're trying to get him up to speed. He's going to be with Pete Dunne, will probably give him technically his best match that he's ever had. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'd be really good. And then the tag title match should be fun, though. The 6-man tag, like the week before, did you watch that? With the Rascals?
I missed last week's NXT.
I'm like, oh, this sounds fun, but it was so spotty and long. I just kind of like started looking at my phone. Like, I wasn't interested anymore. Like, there wasn't much story there. A lot of action, but the story wasn't there to really grab my attention in the match. So,
shout out to King of Hueco Mundo, but I disagree with him. He says that Vince McMahon would have made him a big star. Vince would have hated this dude. He would have tried to prove Shawn Michaels and Triple H wrong about why this guy is any good, and he would have beat the heck out of him early on.
A younger Vince probably would have maybe taken advantage of the popularity, but yeah, spiteful Vince. Definitely the last 10 years or so, even more, would have been like, oh, John and Paul, you guys think this guy is fantastic? Oh, let me see you. Let me fuck with them and see what happens. Yeah.
All right. Quickly, topic number 4. What's your favorite G1 match so far?
I saw this on the format, and I was like, oh, man, this is hard to say. They've been good. Nothing really. There's
no matches yet that are gonna bust the scale in any way or anything, but really good, solid ones.
Takeshita Jeff Cobb was a lot of fun. I have a special place in my heart for Yu Uemura versus Jeff Cobb, and but that match particularly. But a match that I was happy ended up being really good was the last match they had on the most recent show was Naito and Sonata. I thought like Naito needed a really good match and a really good performance. Sonata needed that performance that makes you remember why they picked him as a world champion. And I thought these guys delivered a good match. And I was like, well, kind of like taking it back in time for Naito, a little on the glory day. So that was really cool.
I think my favorite match is still the match that kind of sucked me into the G1, which is night 1, which is Uemura and David Finlay. For whatever reason, like, it's not the greatest match I've ever seen. I love the story that they told, and like I said, I'm really bought into this babyface role that he is playing. Favorite guest color commentator, Jeff Cobb, no doubt. He's been my favorite one so far.
I thought Gabe Kidd was pretty good.
He was good, but he's just mean.
Yeah, well, that's his character. Yeah, Jeff is good. Cal Newman was surprisingly decent. The worst was El Phantasmo.
He was trying to do some depressed gimmick or whatever people were telling me.
I'm sorry. Every time now I think of El Phantasmo, I think of I listened to an episode of the Jim Cornette show, and I think because they were going over they're I always laugh so hard. They were going over the pay-per-view from the Forbidden Door, and they're like kind of skimmed through the undercard because they didn't watch the 0 hour.
Yeah.
And they said El Phantasmo, right? And they started they looked up as who he was. So he said from Canada, and like an El Phantasmo from Canada. I don't know. It was just the way they're just dying laughing because it's so ridiculous.
Wait, was this this year's Forbidden Door?
Yeah.
So Jim Cornette and Brian Last did not know who El Phantasmo was.
No. I think Brian Last probably knows, but Jim Cornette for sure, I don't think really follows in that great detail. But I just was because they were laughing so hard because it's like he's from Canada. Like it was just when people start laughing they uncontrollably, you just kind of get the giggles. Now every time I think of El Phantasmo, I think of that. And but anyways,
El Phantasmo is very interesting. He's very polarizing. Like some people really like him, some people really dislike him. I don't feel any sort of way about him. Like I'm just like, he's he's fine.
Like if this was the 80s, he'd be a really good job guy. Like he'd bump around and
he could be like he could be a local territorial like baby face who was okay getting over with the fans or whatever.
He's Italian stallion, the Mark Youngs or
Mark Young. He's gonna be he's gonna start breakdancing.
Breakdancing. He just looks like just a dirty Q-tip with that hair. He's so skinny, but he's a good wrestler. I don't see him as a main event guy. Yeah.
All right. Let's preview this SummerSlam card. I was looking at it and going like, okay, like this is not the the PLE from a different country or whatever. This is SummerSlam. They're in the stadium. The 50,000 tickets sold or whatever.
Wow.
There's only 7 matches on this thing.
But yes, but it's all you need when it's 7 matches that all been built to and peaking right now, right? Like each match has been built up really well.
I understand that very much. I just thought, they're going to try and run SummerSlam 2 nights next year.
Yeah.
And I just figured, I was like, oh, they're gonna add a couple things, but I'm fine with 7 matches. They'll stretch it out to that 3.5 hours, I'm sure, because they're gonna have some long matches. But I was just like surprised. I was like, wow, only 7. The AEW has 7 matches on the pre-show sometimes.
Yeah, I love this 7 matches only. And yes, they'll stretch it out with not only video packages, but we'll have the more because it's a stadium show, so there'll be more elaborate entrances and on the show. I'm looking forward to. I'm pretty pumped for this show. It's at 4:00 start time, which
good for us.
Me. Yeah, no, I like that for sure. So.
All right, let's go through the card. Tell me who you think's going to win, kind of what you think's going to happen, or what you would do based off of what's going on so far. All right, let's start. And now this one makes me sad because I'm the only one who really wants Damian Priest to keep this title. I don't imagine he is keeping this title. He's facing Gunther. Gunther called him street trash the other day. I almost wanted to jump through that television and help Damian Priest fight him. Damian Priest versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship.
I want Gunther to win the world title, but I think Damian Priest is actually retaining it.
You think he's retaining? It has to be shenanigans. They're not going to pin Gunther.
Shit. I don't know, man. I just feel I want it. I want him to be world champion. I love Gunther's my guy. He's my favorite wrestler to watch right now, but I just feel somehow, some way, Priest is going to have his arm raised, unless Priest gets an out by, what's his name? Finn Balor turning heel. I think that's the only way there. So,
interesting.
But then you have 2 heel turns. I feel like Dom's going to be turning heel with on Rhea. So
Bailey hanging out. I think I saw her at 49ers practice or something with George Kittle.
she's always there. Well, she's from the Bay, so
Bailey facing Nia Jax. So I don't think this is going to be a good night for Bailey here.
I think Nia is winning because I like the idea. I like doing the stuff with Tiffany and Nia.
Stratton.
Yeah, and then leading to that. And Bailey doesn't need the belt. She's already
She got her WrestleMania moment.
Exactly. And Nia's been a good heel since she's been back so but I like the idea of Tiffany. Like I like that when they did that tease, that little a couple weeks ago on SmackDown with Tiffany trying to about to cash in. I like that. That was pretty cool.
Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley.
I think Liv's retaining. I think Dom is turning. It'd be interesting if Finn gets involved in that or not, but I think Dom is turning. But I think eventually, because I think the fans base doesn't want to cheer Dom, right? So I think you gotta keep him heel and turn on Rhea.
Liv has got to be playing this dude at some point, though, right?
Yeah, I would think maybe she's gonna be with Finn.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Is they do like the kind of the double thing, the double swerve or whatever.
I would be worried about Finn's real life wife, but
I saw Finn's real life wife. I think she's going to be confident in herself.
She's I see her. But you know the wrestling.
Yeah, the wrestling. The wrestling marriages and stuff. Yeah. I was kind of worried about because Dom got married right in the whole mommy and Liv thing. I was like, man.
Well, let's hope it's not a Sam Guevara situation with this first.
Oh God, that poor woman.
Yeah.
All right, Cody Rhodes against Solo Sikoa for the undisputed WWE Championship.
Cody up. I don't think Roman should come out. There's too much interference in the show of what's going on here so far. So I think.
I mean, if you do it, the bloodline is they're gonna do it anyways, right? They're gonna do that style of match anyways.
They're gonna interfere, but I think Cody should retain with the help. Maybe Owens needs to help out, Orton needs to help out, and maybe the heels get their heat after, and then
Jay
shows up.
Jay will be there as well. One would assume, even though I don't think he's wrestling on this card.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say Cody up for sure. I don't think you take that belt off him anytime soon.
I do think fans expect Roman Reigns to be on this show. We'll see what happens on SmackDown, but the fans have been kind of pointing to this show as the one where it's worthy of Roman to return. So that'd be interesting. I mean, we remember because I think people think he's going to have something to do with War Games, if it's going to be Bloodline versus Bloodline. But that's also the intrigue for me is where Roman.
Yeah,
I want to see the reaction. Like, dude's going to be over like crazy, and he's going to be doing. I'm assuming he's going to be doing the same Bloodline Roman. He's not going to pander to the crowd as a baby face.
Yeah, it's like Austin.
It's going to be unique. Yeah, it's going to be
Austin
really
turning baby face. He just needs to be him. Austin, don't change it. Here they go.
All right, Logan Paul and LA Knight for the U.S. Championship.
LA Knight up. It needs to happen. I think if Logan goes over, LA Knight loses another big match, and that not only is another big match, but it's a match for a lesser belt. He's losing too. As he said, I think you got to go with Knight to win the title.
I was cracking up because Dave and Brian were having an argument on which wrestler LA Knight is sort of trying to be like a little bit more between The Rock and Steve Austin. And I'm like, both. Like he's actively trying to be both at the same time. All right. Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. I got my eye on this one because I still think Braun should have won the last time. But so. He's still over. He didn't really lose anything at all from losing that match based on how he's been booked. I want to see it. But I don't think it's going to happen the way that I would like to see it. I would like to see a little bit more of an impressive victory by Braun, just because I think he's such a beast. But is he winning this title here?
Yes. God, how many title matches are we on this card?
Every single one. Every single one except for Punk and Drew is a title match.
Oh, all right. That's right. I thought so. Yeah. Braun has to be.
All right, now you're gonna have to put your creative thinking cap on here. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. I was at Dave's last weekend for the UFC, and I was telling him, I was saying how, as I'm a little bit older, and I'm really enjoying the Punk and Drew feud. Like I enjoy the work of both guys. I enjoy the way that, the little things that each guy is doing. They're still dicks, but there's little bits of babyface in Drew, I think. And Punk is more of a babyface, but he's still a giant dick. So you could hate him if you want. And my interest in this match is like, this is a grudge match. I want to see what happened in the grudge. But I told him, I said, but what I also realize is that the majority, I don't know if it's the majority, a large number of WWE fans are just as interested in what Seth Rollins does as they are in the grudge match. Personally, I like Seth as a performer. I think he's awesome. But I don't even want him to get involved because I want to see like a definitive thing. I know they're not going to have like this definitive victory. Like that's why Seth is there. People have talked about Brett and Undertaker or Shawn and Undertaker with Brett as the referee kind of being possibly the guide to that match. But my issue with that is Brett and Shawn was the real feud there. Seth isn't in the real feud. It's the real feud, at least right now for this story, is CM Punk and Drew. Seth is a third wheel in the sense whereas Brett was not the third wheel. Brett was the most intriguing figure in that other feud. So that's the difference. But I think a lot of people are looking forward to this. What do you think happens?
I think Seth is going to be the reason for the outcome of Drew winning and pinning Punk. It's going to set up multiple matches between those three guys. It's going to set up a triple threat match down the line as well. Could see that at Bad Blood. Could see that. Yeah, so I think that's what's going to happen. I think something similar, not exactly like Shawn Michaels refereeing the Bret Hart Undertaker match from SummerSlam 97, but something. I think Seth's going to get involved because both Drew and Punk push his buttons too, within the match. And I could see him, curb stomping both and, putting Drew on one, or, whatever. Maybe Punk is the one that really turns the screw with Seth and makes him go crazy. So,
yeah, I think I kept putting Brett in the referee spot in that match. Shawn was the referee, and then he hit Undertaker in the head with a chair on accident.
But don't forget too, like, yes, the real feud was Shawn and Brett, but coming out of that match from SummerSlam, Brett and Undertaker, because of the interference, even Undertaker and Shawn had two matches the next two pay-per-views, right?
Yeah,
so you can see that as well coming out of it.
Yep.
So there's a lot of ways they can go. It's interesting. I think right now it's Punk and Drew is feud of the year in 2024, though we'll see how it ends. But I think right now, if you're doing by a half year, they haven't wrestled yet, and it's the feud of the year, in my opinion. So,
all right, are you going to Big Dave's on Sunday?
No, it's not Sunday. It's Saturday.
Oh, Saturday. Sorry, Saturday.
No, I gotta watch it here because my wife Katrina's working, late at the salon, so I'm just gonna chill here and watch it with the kids. I think Rhea's wrestling, so I'm sure Chloe will want to tune in for that, and Hunter will want to bring out his wrestling ring and play with his toys. And Braun Breaker's wrestling. He has Braun Breaker action figures, so he gets excited to see that. It's gonna be interesting when you see. I don't know if the Wyatt Six are gonna be showing up because they have not seen that yet. It might be a little scary.
Yeah.
Though he has a Fiend action figure. And I think I'll explain that that's the Fiend's brother, so we'll see.
All right. That is it from here. So we will be back next week, and we'll figure out when we go live again on this channel. We may be able to go live more often, but we want to test it out with these once a month, just with our schedule and stuff.
Mhm.
But it's fun for me to do the live stuff because I can produce and see the comments coming in, and we can kind of be a little interactive. Not quite like Livewire back in the 90s there, but yeah. So
Who's
all right,
Vic Venom?
not me.
Not me.
All right. Thank you to everyone who checked in with us live in the chat. Thank you to everyone who is listening on the podcast feed. For John LaRocca, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.